Welcome, everyone, to People on Dating. I'm your host, Will Morales. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this podcast is about the ups and downs of dating and how to navigate through it. Today, my guest is Evan Marc Katz. Did I get that right, Evan?
That's correct.
Okay, sounds good. Billed as a personal trainer for smart, strong, successful women, dating coach Evan Marc Katz has been helping singles since 2003. He is the author of 4 books, most recently Believe in Love, and has been featured in hundreds of media outlets, including Today, the New York Times, CNN, and CNN. Since 2015, Evan's blog has over 30 million readers. His podcast has over 1 million downloads, and 12,000 women have graduated from Love You, his 6-month video course that helps women understand men and find love. Evan is happily married and lives in Los Angeles with his wife and 2 children. Evan, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. How are you, sir?
I'm just glad to be here. It's a holiday week, so it's a short week. I'm just trying to take care of all of my obligations, and I'm just excited to talk to you and see if I can help your audience in some small way navigate the world of dating.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. So, Evan, tell us a little about yourself. What was the Evan's journey to get to where we are today? What was those steps that you took? When was that aha moment that you could be a dating coach and help thousands of women out?
It certainly wasn't one moment. It was like most things, I think it was born out of failure.
Okay.
I moved out to Hollywood when I was in my 20s to become a screenwriter. I came really close, agents and managers and winning contests and going to film school. And I did everything you could possibly do except make any money. And when I turned 30, I realized I didn't want to be the 40-year-old guy who was trying to sell a screenplay. And so I got a job answering phones at an online dating company. And after 9 months of getting yelled at by strangers, which is not my temperament, I realized I knew more about online dating than anybody I was talking to. So because I didn't know better, I wrote a book about online dating in 2003 called I Can't Believe I'm Buying This Book, A Common Sense Guide to Successful Internet Dating. And unlike my Hollywood career, the book did well. And suddenly I was on CNN and I was on the Today Show, and I dropped out of film school and I became the dating guy. I didn't have a plan. I was 31, and 20 years later, I have sort of invented something. Now, lots of people, I'm the first dating coach, but there's lots of people who do some form of what I made up in 2004. Right. So I specialize now in helping smart, strong, successful women who have everything but the guy get the guy. And that was not something I intended to create. That was a byproduct that 80% of the people who came to me were sort of the same kind of woman.
Wow. And it's funny because, and today's, it's a great topic, why you don't attract the wrong man, you accept the wrong man. And I've seen, with some of my female friends, they might talk to me about, a guy that they went out with and they turn out to be an a-hole or this or that. If you could explain, and we'll get more into detail as we go along with the podcast, do you think that maybe it's the men that are not portraying themselves the way that they should? In other words, are they faking their own profile, so to speak, when they meet a woman? In other words, they want to be what that woman might want, a successful man. In other words, they're portraying themselves to be something that they're not.
I want to acknowledge that exists, but I also would be remiss if I didn't say that the very nature of the beast. It's advertising. It's not men, it's women. This is what people do. We either put ourselves out what we think other people want to hear, or how we see ourselves at our best. No one's going to advertise their worst traits online. That would be ineffective. It wouldn't get you anywhere. Right? Hey, I'm going to be a great guy for 3 months, then I'm going to turn into a dick. No one's going to tell you that.
Right.
So the bigg't problem with dating is not people misrepresenting themselves online. It's baked into the cake, right? People are gonna, guys who are 5'7" are gonna say they're 5'9". Why? Because if they tell the truth, they're not gonna get a first date. It's just what people do. So I'm no longer surprised that people misrepresent themselves online. I tend to judge people for effort and follow through rather than their advertising.
Wow. Okay. Because it seems, like some of the women that, like I said, that I've talked to, they always say that the guy's not who they were, when they first met and all that. So is it the women then that are, like you said, that they're not attracting the wrong man, they're accepting it? are they looking for something that might not be, maybe their standards are a little too high, that maybe they're accepting the wrong man?
You're conflating a lot of things in one question.
I'm
I'm trying to
sorry.
figure out. No, it's okay. It's interesting. It's food for thought. I just have to sort of tease out everything you shared there.
Okay.
Because there's multiple layers to the story. People, men and women, tend to date or attempt to date 25% up.
Okay.
Right? That's what the numbers show. It's everybody's aspirational, right? Maybe you're not going to get into Harvard, but I'm going to send in an application to see if I can get into Harvard. So people tend to want to date people who are in a step above them.
Okay.
Which is normal. So it's not that people's women's aspirations are unfair. I think there's simultaneously two complicated things going on. On one hand, women set the bar too high. I want a guy who's 6 feet tall. Well, only 14% of men are 6 feet tall. I want a guy who makes six figures. Well, only 10% of guys make six figures. I want a guy who has a bachelor's degree. Well, only 35% of men have bachelor degrees. So you add all those things together, right? And yes, the dating pool becomes increasingly small, right? And women refuse to compromise on settling those things. And I understand it. I tend to advocate for saying, hey, it's okay if he's 5'9", says the 5'9" guy.
Right.
It's okay if you make 125,000 and he makes 75,000. It's all right.
Yeah.
Combined, you make 200. So I'll always get people to ease up on those things. The problem, to your original point about you don't attract the wrong men, you accept the wrong men, is that we're willing to compromise, right, on the wrong qualities. We won't compromise on height, weight, age, education, religion. We won't compromise on those external things, but we do compromise all the time on communication, commitment, right, character, kindness. We compromise on all those things. So that's my biggest message to women who are dating. Don't compromise on that, because that's settling. And when you choose a guy who's tall, dark, handsome, and rich, but treats you like crap, right? That's what I mean. But you don't attract the wrong men. You don't attract narcissists. You choose narcissists, and you double down and stay with narcissists, wondering, why are they so narcissistic? Why are they so selfish? So that's the problem, is once people fall in love with an idea of a person, they'll stay no matter how poorly they're treated.
Okay. So how do women navigate through that then, especially if they're, going to compromise on the quality of a man or the qualities that they have for themselves? Why is that happening then? Is it because, like you said, the dating pool has shrunk when they want someone that's 6 feet, six figures, a bachelor's degree? Now that, like you said, the dating pool has shrunk.
Well, let's start. And that's a great question. Let's start with that dating pool. If we multiply those numbers together, right, it's 35% times 10%. We're starting with we're starting with 1% of men.
Right.
With those three characteristics, we're starting with 1% of men, because he has to have all three of them.
Right.
What we haven't factored in when we're talking about, for example, college height and education, what we haven't factored in is whether he's nice, or whether he's funny, or whether he's verbally abusive, or whether he wants to get married, or whether he wants to have kids, whether he is a saver versus a spender, whether he's an introvert or we haven't factored anything in, and we're starting with 1% of the population. And what's the last thing we haven't factored in? Whether he likes you.
Which is the key.
A big part of it. So that's the problem, is when we determine collectively that all of these people are beneath my standards, I know what I'm attracted to, I know what I want, that's fine, right? But ultimately, it's just a big funnel. There's all these people at the top of the funnel, and most people only have a little trickle coming through, and they're choosing those men based on external characteristics rather than internal characteristics. So I'm not saying that you should be with someone you're not attracted to. I'm not saying you should be with someone you don't respect. I'm saying if you're attracted to someone, you respect someone, and they don't make you happy, your relationship isn't joyous, you don't feel safe, heard, and understood, you don't actually have anything. So in Love You, my program, we work in the opposite direction. We choose men who exhibit character, kindness, consistency, communication, and commitment. and then say, how much of the good traits that I find attractive can I get on top of that? But we start with, how does he treat me? How do I feel?
Wow. I never even thought about it that way, because it's always been, with people that I've talked to and people that I've interviewed, and, it seems like they always look at the outside first, like you said, the college, the height, and the salary. But then, you got the character. Is he loving? Is he caring? Does he share? Are some women blinded by that then, by the outside qualities first?
Well, I coach women, but everything I'm saying could apply to men. If we're dealing in broad-based, gender stereotypes. I mean, you ever know a guy who's, dated some woman who was hot and crazy? Right. So
yeah.
So for every guy who's willing to say, well, she's really hot, I'll put up with all the BS to be with her, there's some woman who's willing to put up with some selfish, narcissistic, high status man who doesn't make time for her, who doesn't see her regularly, who cheats on her, who puts her down. There's always a buyer for that market. So those guys get away with murder. And so I think there's a lane. It's a narrow lane. Right. I would say 10% of people are in that lane who make for really good partners. Right. And as long as we keep on trying to recruit people who are good partners and convince ourselves that if I love him enough, if I love her enough, they'll change. Right. Things are, when it's good, it's really good. Well, right. That's not enough. It's on a day-to-day basis. Can you relax, let down your guard, trust this person? And way too many people are in relationships with people that they cannot trust, where they have to walk on eggshells. And that's no way to live a life.
Yeah, no. I've been there, Evan, where and I'm talking with Evan Marc Katz today, and our subject is why don't you attract the wrong man? You accept the wrong man. And I've been there, Evan, where I went out with a woman that I found out was a narcissist. I didn't get to know her as well as I should. Is there a period of time before we date someone that we should get to know them first and find out if this is the quality of person that we should be with? Or
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that is the right, certainly the right question to ask. Probably any business in the world has best practices or standard operating procedures for how you build a website, or how you play piano, or how you warm up before a baseball game. I mean, there's probably just like ways that have been discovered over the years to ensure one's success.
Right.
Dating is the same thing. We treat dating as if it's this miraculous, chaotic, oh my God, it's just the universe and luck and timing and chemistry. And there's actually a systematic way to go about producing better results in love that most people don't explore. So we just look from reality and from people's mistakes, people's blind spots. What's the most common mistake people make early in the dating phase? They fall for someone really hard that they barely know, and they hop into bed. That's number one mistake. Is we make a decision based on chemistry and attraction. So now you hooked up with someone, the person you hooked up with, you call him a boyfriend, he calls you a girlfriend. You guys have known each other for a total of 5 hours.
Yeah, I got you.
And now you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to figure out how to make that thing work just because you had a great first night together. Right? That's the way a lot of relationships start, is quickly. So in Love U, I discourage people. I can't control what anybody does, but I encourage people. It's almost like you're the CEO of your love life. The opposite sex who you're dating are the interns applying for a job.
I like that.
See, is this intern a good fit for the job before we give him health insurance? We want to take our time before that. So I generally encourage people to date for 4 to 6 weeks, right? To see how the person continues to show up, not just on the date, because anybody can be charming for 2 hours, but in between dates, how do they follow up, right? What's their effort? Do they want to see you? Are they just texting? Are they pushing for sex? Is it all about that? Are they talking about the future? Do they want the same things that you do? If you just give someone a month to reveal themselves, you'll learn a lot that you couldn't learn in the first couple of dates. So it's not that sex is bad or wrong. There's no judgment on it. It's proven to be a very ineffective way of figuring out whether someone is compatible with you. So we put compatibility first. If a person could audition well for 4 to 6 weeks, Now, okay, we'll take down our profile, start sleeping together. We'll give this relationship a shot. And if it goes off track, I'm not going to stay for 2 years. We're going to cut the relationship loose when it's not working, instead of doubling down on a mistake, which is what most people do because they hate dating and they think they can't do better. So they stay in a broken relationship. So if there's one thing to take away, it's that hire slowly, fire quickly.
You know, and you hit on a point before where, you know, people tend to text, and I hate texting. You do not know anyone in a text.
You're probably around my age. We grew up before texting. We used to use the phone as a phone.
Exactly. And, you know, and Evan, whenever I meet someone online, the first thing I always tell her, I would like to do a phone call or a video call.
Right.
That's it. And then I know they're catfishing because it's someone pretending to be someone else. But that's the first thing I always say. I said, hey, if you want to get to know me, phone call, video, because you can see someone's face, you can see someone's expression, you can hear their voice, whether they're angry or they're up or they're happy. Do you with certain women that you might have coached before in the past, do you talk to them and say, hey, you know what, after they got off a bad relationship, right? You know, where they got their heart broken, now they don't feel like dating, but they want to get back on the horse, so to speak. How do you navigate through a woman that's been through such a bad breakup that they, you know, where the other guy could have been, like you said, a narcissist or whatever, but now she wants to get back on the horse, she wants to get back out there.
Sure.
What are some of the ways that we could help someone like that out?
Sure. The entire first month of Love You does not involve dating. That's the very nature of the course, because people come to me after a bad breakup, right? Something's not working and I'm trying to regroup. So we don't just throw someone into the deep end of the pool and ask them to start swimming. We want to set someone up for success. So we do an entire month on confidence before we even get to dating. And then we talk about flirting, and we talk about meeting men in real life. And then we do an entire unit on online dating, right? Which is really best practices for how to set up a dating profile, which site to be on, how to lead people through the process of going from the dating site to a first date. And what we're trying to do is almost recreate real life, right? How do we make online dating feel more like real life? So to your original question, when someone's feeling really down, they'll suffer from some sort of recency effect. They'll assume that because the last guy they dated ghosted, that the next guy's going to ghost. Because the last guy they dated cheated, the next guy's going to cheat. Right? And then you start to see evidence of that all over the place. The fact is, no two guys are the same. Right? They're all independent rolls of the dice. Because you rolled a 6 on this hand doesn't mean you're going to roll a 6 on the next hand.
Right.
So the problem isn't the opposite sex. The problem is your selection process. If you are attracted to alpha males or narcissists or emotionally unavailable guys who never want to get married, if you choose those guys over and over, you can't be terribly surprised that the ending is always the same. So we have to fix our choice of partner. You don't have to change yourself, but we do have to change our choice of partner if we're going to get different results. I liken it to food. You might love steak and ice cream, but you can't have 3 meals of steak and ice cream a day. Or your doctor's going to tell you your heart's going to explode when you're 50.
Right.
So what does the doctor do? You have to change your diet.
Right.
Oh, I'm just supposed to have like rice cakes and kale? No, you just can't have steak and ice cream. There's plenty of other food that's good for you out there.
Right.
When I share this story and women are like, he's telling me to invest in high character men instead of attractive, tall, rich, charismatic guys, I feel like I'm settling. No, I'm just getting you off of the ice cream and the steak.
Right.
You're dying. So there's this whole lane of quality people that you might not have ever paid attention to because you wanted to have it both ways. And if some guy were single and he said he was holding out for a supermodel who's also a chef, who's also a Rhodes Scholar, you'd be like, all right, man, maybe bring it down a little bit.
Right. You know, it's funny that you say that about the standards of certain people, whether it's a woman or a man. Is another thing, Evan, because what I went through one breakup, and I want your opinion on this.
Sure.
And I heard, you know, when I spoke to this woman at the beginning of before the relationship started, and she gave me all her red flags. But because at that time, you know, I was single and I wanted to start being out there, I ignored the red flag. In other words, I listened to what she says, but I didn't hear it.
Yes.
Do some women go through that same process where they might listen to a man talk about their goals or what they've done, but it doesn't sink in? Does that question make sense at all?
I'm not positive I landed on the exact question, so maybe rephrase it so you can help me out.
Okay. For example, if you listen to someone talk but you don't hear them, in other words, it doesn't sink in. You
That
just
what?
I'm sorry?
What doesn't sink in?
Whatever she like what she told me, like she told me about her dating history and all that, and it didn't sink into me because I thought this could be the one for me.
I got it.
Yeah.
I understand where you're going. So the concept that we talk about in my program, we say believe the negatives, ignore the positives.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the positives are the things that you want to see. She's really cute. She's really funny. She's really smart. Right? She comes from a good family. Like these things that we find attractive. The negatives are the things that are presented to us that we sweep under the rug because we're so intoxicated by the positives. So, because I coach women, I'll use this, these examples. Guy says, I don't really know what I'm looking for. Don't go out with him.
Right.
I don't think I ever want to get married again. Well, if you do, don't go out with him.
Right.
Long distance, don't go out with him.
Right.
Recently separated or divorced, don't go out with him. Struggling with employment or addiction, don't go out with him. They're not bad people. I'm not judging them morally. They're not in a place right now to give you what you need today. You're hoping that they change for you. That the addiction guy is going to overcome his addiction. The unemployed guy is going to get his act together. That the guy who's a slacker is suddenly going to become motivated. That the guy who is just out of a shitty marriage is suddenly going to get the marriage bug again. We're banking on people changing. So when people tell you who they are, it's a Maya Angelou quote. When people tell you who they are, believe them. That's, I feel like what you're saying.
No, it's exactly what I'm saying. Yes, because like I said, I went through a period with this one woman. She gave me all her red flags, but I just ignored it. That's what I meant. That
because there must have been something compelling about her.
Yes.
That made you ignore them.
Yes, exactly. You hit it right on the head. When I woke up, I realized, I'm like, oh my God, this person is all wrong for me. And then I reflected back.
She showed you, and you had to experience that for yourself.
Yes, exact. Thank you. You hit it right on the head. That's what I was talking about, and you nailed it. So when you talk to these women, they want to get back on like I said before, on the horse and all that, and you put them through your love you program, where you tell them, hey, take it easy, learn, maybe go down a little bit on your dating status and all that. Do any of these women fight you with that because they're used to a certain status?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Of course. But that's the very nature of change. If you're going to go work out, if you want to get healthy, right? So you want to lose 20 pounds, it's your New Year's resolution. So what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to go on a diet. Do you get to eat exactly what you wanted before? No, you got to change your diet. If you eat the same thing you did before, you're still going to be 20 pounds overweight.
Right.
Go to the gym. You're going to lift some heavier weights. It's going to rip up your muscles. It's going to hurt a little bit. Why? Because it's the process of change and growth is sometimes painful, right? But it leaves you in a better place, right?
Right.
That's the very nature of it. Is if the advice I was giving was bad advice, I wouldn't have happy clients.
Right, exactly.
I have 100 wedding photos on my website of people who followed this advice and got what they wanted. I think the hard part is when we have a very specific vision of what we think we want or what we deserve. It's very hard to let go of it. And part of the reason I can be very preachy about this is I spent my entire 25 to 35 prolific dating years online, dating women, just like doing the exact same thing I'm telling you not to do is what I did.
Right.
I was trying to date the female version of me. And I went out with 300 people who I thought could be the female version of me, because obviously that's the best person to date is the female version of me. And that was a blind spot. And the person I married wasn't like me, right? She was like me where it counts. She's cool. She's funny. She's easygoing. I trust her completely. Great wife and mother. Biggest heart in the world. But on paper, I'm Jewish. She's Catholic. She's divorced. My parents, no one in my family has ever been divorced. Everybody in your family is divorced and alcoholic. Right? Comes from a right-wing Navy family. I'm an East Coast Jewish liberal intellectual. Nothing, but we together are magic. And we were online at the same time. And we did not see each other online. We would have passed each other up. I wouldn't have gone out with a woman 3 years older than me online. When I met her in real life, I obviously gave her a chance. So these are the opportunities that we don't get when we get too dialed into what we think we want. We lose the people on the margins who might be a great fit for us. So I just ask people to open up to the people on the margins, not settling, right? Because if you're settling, right, the difference between compromising and settling is one thing, how you feel about it.
Right.
Everything in life, Will, you know this, involves trade-offs.
Yeah.
Your job is a trade-off. Your home is a trade-off. Your friends and family are a trade-off. You get some good things, you get some not so good things. The only place people don't want to trade off is in love. I think I'm going to get all good qualities and no bad qualities. I'm going to get myself a millionaire who's home at 5 to cook me dinner. I'm going to get this gorgeous guy who other women don't look at and covet.
Right.
That's not how it works.
Right. Exactly.
So when we assess what trade-offs are we going to make, we don't trade off on character, kindness, consistency, communication, commitment. Everything else is technically on the table, right? And so the difference between settling and compromising is how you feel. You compromise your way into happiness. My wife and I compromised our way into happiness. If we weren't happy, we would have both settled.
Right.
So you really got to listen to your feelings. I'm not telling you who you should and should not date. I'm telling you the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Wow. I mean, to me, that's the quote of the day right there, because I've known people that just keep on getting back together, and they end up clashing. They leave, they get back together.
And so I look at it like almost like puzzle pieces.
Right.
I'm not judging the puzzle pieces. If the two puzzle pieces don't fit, you don't try to force them to fit. You don't jam them together. Puzzle pieces fit or they don't.
Right.
And that's a relationship, right? If it doesn't fit, it's nobody's fault. It could be your fault, his fault. It doesn't matter who's at fault. How do you know it fits? It's easy. It's effortless. It flows. So if your relationship isn't easy, why are you even there?
Sometimes I wonder that question myself, like, why was I there? But it was because at that time I felt lonely and all that. And I think that all of us go through that in a period where we feel lonely. We don't want to,
Right. We'd rather have someone to share our misery than to be alone. But if that person is dragging you down instead of lifting you up, then the relationship isn't like a life preserver. It's like an anchor. Right. And that's what happens. People marry people who drag them down and spend 20 years being dragged down. And the whole point is not to attach yourself to an anchor when you could have seen that within the first 6 months of dating.
Yeah. Wow. Well, first of all, Evan, I want to thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, just a couple more things. Talk more about your Love You program.
Sure. Love You is my signature program. Started it in 2015. I've had 13,000 graduates. The very nature of the course is that it's designed for busy women who have a lot going for them to learn everything there is to know about dating, relationships, and men in 5 minutes a day. So I give you about half hour of content each week. The first month is on confidence, then meeting men, dating, understanding men, relationships, and commitment. So watch a half-hour video. And then we encourage you to date online, right? To put these ideas into practice, put in about a half-hour a day of online dating, attend a weekly coaching call, go join a private Facebook group with a community of other women who are going through the same process. And so now we have like a Jenny Craig or an AA, we have a whole system designed to hold your hand through this process, to hold you accountable, to ensure that you stay on the right track and you don't lapse back into your old mistakes. Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. And talk more about your podcast. Sure. Well, my name's Evan Marc Katz, EvanMarckatz.com. You can go to my website and click on a button and watch a video, and you could apply to Love You if the program sounds like it's interesting. If you still don't know if you like me or believe me or want to make this investment in yourself, you can listen to my podcast. I'm on every channel. It's called the Love You Podcast. You could find me on Apple Podcasts. You could find me on Stitcher. You could watch the videos on YouTube. You could find me on Instagram or TikTok even. I can't believe I have a TikTok channel, but I do.
I don't got one yet, so
I give a ton of, the reason I'm here with Will, I give a ton of free dating and relationship advice. If you find it appealing and you're learning, but your life isn't changing, maybe then you reach out for coaching, and I could actually get you a result in your life that makes you not have to ever go on another date again.
no, sounds good. And tell us that website, where to find you again.
Sure. evanmarckatz.com. You can go to evanmarckatz.com /apply and fill out an application to love you. We'll spend an hour on the phone. We'll figure out if you're a good fit for the program. And otherwise, again, enjoy the free information. I hope it made you think, and I hope it makes a difference in your life.
No, sounds good. Well, Evan, again, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. I really, really appreciate it.
You're a great interviewer. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for having me.
Sounds good. Thank you. Well, everyone, that was Evan Marc Katz, and you can find him at evanmarckatz.com. That's EvanMarckatz. Evan, thank you so much for being on People on Dating. Much appreciated. You can find me on YouTube. Go to People on Dating. Please subscribe, share, like, do whatever you can. Please, please, please. Also, you can find me on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Anyway, on behalf of People on Dating, I'm Will Morales. Until next time, thanks, everybody. Have a great day. And remember, it's just a conversation, no judgment. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.